Welcome to the Victory Speaks Inspired Conversation series, where iron sharpens iron. That's you and me sharpening each other. I am your host, Nicole Waldron, your voice of victory and your mental fitness coach. And I'm on a mission to create inspiring life conversations with everyday experts, unsung heroes, and thought leaders that will empower us to live a victorious lifestyle. As you join me on this journey through these inspired conversations, I hope you will be inspired to have intentional conversations that will lift you up and enhance your life. No matter the type of conversations we have, good, bad, funny, you name it, it can all be inspiring. Tonight, I invite you to get comfy, get a nice drink or a snack, grab a notepad, as you just never know when a wisdom key can be dropped. Please share this with your friends and get ready to engage with us. And welcome, everybody. It is Monday, May, the first Monday in May. Can you believe it? Where did the time go? Well, folks, I'm not going to stay too long with my diatribe this afternoon, this evening, or this morning, depending on where you are tuning in from. Let me know where you're tuning in from, because I have a really great show tonight. Well, all my shows are great, but this one is really special. Today is the start of Mental Health Week here in Canada, and tonight I wanted to curate a conversation that was so special for you. I wanted you to hear the voice of the caregiver's voice through the eyes of a mom. Mental health and a mother's love. My special victory guests are Shabnam Sukhdev and her daughter, Ishaa Chopra. They will bring their journey dealing with mental health and wellness. And so Shabnam is an award-winning filmmaker and educator with a double major in psychology and sociology in her undergraduate studies and a BEd in special education. While pursuing her thesis on mental health in the MFA program at York University, Toronto, Shabnam completed her deeply personal documentary titled Unfinished, inspired by her caregiving journey. Isha has a degree in performing arts and is currently pursuing an early childhood leadership degree at George Brown College here in Toronto. And besides work, dance, and studies, her goal is to publish a memoir that will chronicle her experiences as a victim of domestic violence, a mental health patient, and as a dancer. So, folks, let's get started. I want you to give a warm Victory Speaks welcome to Shabnam. Put your emojis in the chat wherever you are. Shabnam, welcome to the Victory Speaks show and stage. It's so good to have you here.
Really happy to be here, Nicole.
Wonderful. And so, Shabnam, I want to know so much from you tonight, but I'm going to just really work on telling the story. Now, you're an award-winning filmmaker and educator, and you have this double major in psychology and sociology. And how did you even get a passion for film with all of that?
Well, I think I got into filmmaking by accident. My father was a documentary filmmaker. He passed away when I was 14. And all his friends and all his colleagues, they felt that I need to complete his incomplete work. I wasn't interested in that. But then somehow, I just felt, okay, if this is what I meant to do, I'll try it out. It was not until I went to the Film Institute in Pune to pursue my filmmaking to find out whether I was really cut out for it, did I discover that it was my passion as well. And that's how I got into filmmaking. But I thought I'll do fiction. So I did a lot of television work in the Mumbai film industry. And of course, I was drawn towards documentary as well. And I finally did a film chronicling my father's work. It was a personal film where I got to know my father through his work and made my peace with him. And that's when I realized that personal documentary is the style that lights my fire. And I continue to do the same even now. Yeah. I can't hear you, Nicole.
Well, of course you can't hear me because I am on mute. Of course you can't hear me. That would just be amazing. And so Now, you believe that a personal independent voice can deeply reflect the concerns of society. How has that framed your work?
See, I first of all feel I use film as a crutch or a tool um, to make sense of the world around me. But I feel that that voice, that personal voice, resonates with a lot of people in my society, wherever I am. Um, and yeah, and that's what I do. I don't really particularly say, okay, this is going to be my target audience, but
Mm,
somehow I managed to strike a chord with diverse audiences. Like the film on my father, a lot of people, they said, you know what, now I know how to deal with the wounds I carry, with experiences with my family and my parents. And people would cry watching the film. And
mm.
that wasn't my intention. I was just trying to express myself and make peace with my own crisis. So I think that's what is just using the cinematic medium to tell a story, which is authentic. I think that's the key to making connection with audiences, and that's what I try to do. I don't know
You
if
do
I've
it. You do it so well because I've gotten a glimpse of a couple of the films, and as we'll share later, you just have this way of, in a short space of time, telling a story that is so riveting and pulls you in. So I'm just gonna say kudos for that. So what really drives you, Shabnam? What drives you in your work? Because I know you have a really strong social conscience.
Well, that's what drives me, I guess. It's the social conscience. It's passion for film. The medium, the artistic medium, really drives me. I think art as a tool for dealing with your realities is very effective, and I want to continue to do so even in my further research initiatives. I'm planning to continue studying and do my research in theater and performing studies. So that's my next step, and I'm going to see how we can use art as a tool in family therapy. That's
Ooh.
my that's what I want to do. I hope I can succeed.
I
So
know you will. Listen, I know you will succeed. And I just want to welcome everyone live and on the replay. I see Pam, you're tuning in from Edmonton, and
hey,
Vivian, we're
Pam.
hearing from Toronto. Like, welcome, welcome, welcome. Be sure if you have a question during the show, drop it in the chat because we would love to hear from you. Now, while pursuing your thesis in mental health, right, at York University, you decided to, document a very personal story called Unfinished, inspired by your caregiver's journey. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey? Like, when did you first notice that something was happening with your loved one?
uh, uh, we were in Edmonton. My daughter was 16, and she was out on a United Nations camp in grade 11. And after a few days, she came back and she was so excited. She wanted to change the world. So for 3 days and nights, she didn't sleep at all. She was talking dime to a dozen. She wouldn't stop. Her mouth would turn dry. And I'm like, what's going on? Why isn't she sleeping? I connected with her biological father, who was in India at the time, and he says maybe she's on some drugs. She was out with her high school friends, and maybe she's on some kind of a high. So he said, take her to the emergency. Until then, I never thought I would do that, but I said, okay, that's sound advice. Let's just take her and just find out what's going on. And the coping mechanism that I had was I would just film everything. I would just film her. I said, maybe the doctors may want to see what's going on if there is something amiss. So I was filming her all along, even the journey to the hospital, and then finally she was admitted, and they confirmed that there are no drugs in her blood, but they needed to observe her for 24 hours to know what's really going on with her. And those were the longest 24 hours of my life. I was in the hospital waiting to hear about my girl. And in my mind, they would look at her, they would treat her, and send her back home. And I would take her home with me. That was the plan in my head. Next morning, when the doctor, met me, he said, we think your daughter has a mental health condition. She has an illness. So I said, illness, but then you'll fix her, right? How can we fix her? He says she will need to be on some medications. I said, okay, fine. So how soon can she come home? He says, we don't know yet. And then it kind of struck me, this is something more than I know. Despite my background in psychology, I had no clue what was going on with my girl. And on my drive back home, when I had shared this information with her dad in India, and he says, this is something which may never leave her.
Mm,
It's a genetic condition. And my mind started racing. I was thinking of my dad. He was never diagnosed, but he was an alcoholic and he had issues. And my world just stopped. I was driving, I pulled my car over, and I wept and wept and wept. It was like it hit like thunderbolt. And that was the time when I wrote something, in my journal.
mm.
And if you'd like, I could read it out because I don't relate with that anymore. But I think it might be helpful for other parents who are watching your show to see what a parent can go through. I mean, I'm pretty certain a lot of parents might be able to relate with this. So if it's okay, I could just read out a few lines.
But I want you to read the whole thing. Don't just read the few lines, Shabnam. You are such an amazing storyteller. And the fact that you are willing to share this, the moment, and you said, you know, when Shabnam's, Isha's father said, this will not go away. This is what you have to deal with. So life takes a turn and you have to immediately change how you see life for your loved one, for your daughter. And for anyone listening who has a loved one diagnosed with a mental illness, whether it's a son or a daughter, a sister, a brother, a mother, a father, life changes immediately when you get that diagnosis, just like any other diagnosis, like whether it was cancer and somebody said to you, there is something that happens because you don't know. There's so many unknowns. So if you would share this piece of work that you did, I would love, and I think we would love to hear it. Go ahead. And you have fans tuning in all the way from Dayton, Ohio. Come on, Tanya Singh is tuning in from Dayton, Ohio. So
But Nicole, this is not a piece of art or anything. It's just my feelings which I
but
outpoured.
it
It's
is.
not like a
It
great
is.
poem.
You're an artist, though, Shabnam. No matter, no, I don't. I disagree, and I can see your daughter smiling backstage. I think she's agreeing with me that anything you do is a piece of art because you're an artist. Go ahead.
All right. I mourn for her. Now take her away. My eyes are weary and heart even more. So take her away. Who are we without our minds? If the heart beats and the mind is not ours, how can we feel or cry or love? Aren't we as good as non existent? Because we are not we any longer. We all have a cross to carry, so don't feel sorry. This too shall pass, they say. Right now, I don't see the way. But there will be light at the end, they say. The tunnel is so dark now, I don't see the way. I am afraid to lose myself in the darkness of my own creation. I mourn for her, now take her away. My eyes are weary and heart even more, so take her away.
Wow. And I know many people, Shabnam, that is so powerful. My heart moans for her, so take her away. And we know it's the pain. It's the pain when we see our children going through something that is so unknown, because many people don't understand mental health is a brain disease. It's our mind is our brain, and our brain is our mind, and it affects our brain. And the fact that you could be so raw and so true sharing that, I thank you, because I know for myself as a parent, I felt that. I have felt that. You have expressed what many of us have felt, and people don't understand. It's like you're dealing with a whole new person, especially when your loved one is in crisis. It's a
Yes,
different personality,
yes,
and you have to remember at the same time that this is your daughter, that this is your son, that you gave birth to, and you don't understand what's happening. And you said something there, and Natasha, thank you for saying that. Thank you for sharing the comments coming in. And Sarah says very, very powerful, and I want you to see it, Shabnam, the comments that are coming in. Thank you for sharing. Very powerful. And if anybody else has a comment, and I'm trying not to cry here. Nicole is the one who cries the most. Andrea is like so touching. And you said you don't feel like that anymore. What made you change your way of thinking?
I think the struggle, initially the denial, and of course the guilt that you experience. You don't want to believe that something is really wrong. You read about neurosis, you read about psychosis, and oh, the daughter has psychosis, things like that,
Hmm.
which will never go away. You read all those things you don't want to believe. You feel the meds are only going to be, make it worse.
Right,
Initially, that's the feeling you get. And there was a lot of resistance, and I could not separate the illness from my daughter. So always watching her from that lens,
right.
and not really wanting to engage with the illness or trying to understand what's going on. So running away from all of that, doing other stuff, not focusing on what's on hand, you know. So it took me a while to, you know, the distance, moving away from her. We were in India at the time, after she was got diagnosed, and we were struggling with her. We took her back to India. We
Right.
were there for 8 years, with the hope that she'll get the help. And she did stabilize. She even got married, and then I said, okay, now time to go back to Canada, which was my home. I felt I wanted to go back. My husband was here, so I came back, and that distance made me think more about her. I was still feeling very shaky in my heart that she's married, and I hope it works out, all those feelings, mixed feelings. And well, this is not my story to tell. She might want to talk about this, but I decided to study further, and I felt that this was a good opportunity to do my research in mental health. And why not start with my daughter?
Hmm.
Let me start by understanding my daughter's condition. And I thought the safe space of the MFA program provided me that opportunity. It was a very fertile ground. I had great supervisors I was working with, and they encouraged me to tell the personal story. I tried to work with actors and try to do improvisation and all of that. And finally, I came back to my own story. So it's like catching the bull by the horn and saying, okay, now confront it. So I
Yeah.
looked at all the old footage, which I had filmed with her 12 years ago, and started analyzing it. I started looking at the films I had made at the time, and I somehow found common strands of, I could relate. This illness has been something that has been on my mind for a long, long time, and I thought this was the time to investigate. And
You know, I'm so in awe of the fact that you were actually recording stuff. I kind of just paused that you, somewhere along the line, you were cognizant enough to record stuff.
no, it was a defense, because I could only cope with what was happening in my reality by hiding behind the camera. So
Ah,
I wasn't in my, for me it's like, okay, let me do this. So I remember my husband saying to me, "Are you nuts? Why are you filming this?" He says, "No, the doctor may want to see this. It will be important, And sometimes, even to confront my daughter, I would film her,
Right.
So it was almost at that level, and I've used that even in my film. I said, you know what? I have to show everything uh, that makes me uncomfortable, because if I don't do that, I won't be truthful.
But you
So,
said something there that you had to show her. And I think what for many people, if you're listening and you've never had someone who's gone into crisis, especially with psychosis, it's important to know that when our loved ones are in psychosis, they don't believe what you're telling them. And because it's a different world that they're in. Their reality is their truth, but it's not truth. And someone explained it to me one day. It's like they're living in a dream, but that dream is true because when you're in a dream, you believe it's true,
yeah.
and so it's just a different reality. And when behaviors are changing, depending on how the psychosis moves, their reality takes on a different um, realm. And what were your fears? Because in the piece that you just read, you talk about your mourning, and I felt like that. And you have to come to certain realizations. I tell people that we're looking at many individuals dealing with their mental health and wellness, and some people um, just are unable to cope, because it's a painful disease. And what are your fears as a mom, that so that another mom probably listening um, can even identify with, and maybe we can bring understanding to other parents and people who are surrounding us that don't understand the fears that we have as parents.
Uh, I think initially the fear was that she won't come back from
Mm.
that realm. She had crossed the line which we think is, you know, the way we perceive what normal is.
Yes.
That was her normal, but just the fact that she was like that, and she will never be able to relate with me one on one and recognize me as the mother.
Mm.
That was the fear initially, but subsequently, with repeated, when the illness would return, I knew she'd come back. It was just about me waiting it out, uh, you know. But my hope was that, oh my God, I hope she doesn't get so much medication that it will alter her brain forever and, deteriorate her condition. And as a parent, I always want to hold her. I don't want to let her fall.
Yeah.
That has always been my thing.
And don't we all, like, no matter how old they get, I think no
Yeah,
matter what child you have,
yeah,
you always want to, like, and I think listen, to any person out there, and Isha, I say this to you, I say this to my son, no matter what your age, we as your mothers, you can be 50, you can be 60, we will always be concerned for your health and well-being, no matter where you go in life, because there's just this natural nurturing inside of us as
yeah,
parents. and and I love your honesty, because the medication
yeah.
has the side effects, and you mentioned that, and we've spoken about that. Like, what some people may not even understand is that the medication comes with its own side effects that
Yes,
adds to the, even it's a recovery from in during the illness, it can exacerbate some
yes.
of the experience that they're going through. But looking at that, how did you navigate that as a mom?
I think, like you mentioned in one of our conversations, you have to pick your battles.
Yes.
You have to see what is better
Mm,
in a given moment. What will help her function better, what will make her more receptive to therapy, what will help her understand how to better her life circumstances. And actually, to complete the previous thought, I think the biggest fear I have is that, will she find love
mm,
after I'm gone? It's like, as a mom, I'm there, for her. I get mad at her, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, but I love her and I'll protect her. but what happens after me?
Yeah.
You
I
know,
have that
so
I have that same thing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you feel it naturally
yeah,
as a mom, but I think when your loved one, your child has an illness, no matter what the illness,
yeah,
you wonder if they will find someone who can love them unconditionally.
yeah.
And it's the most beautiful lesson I think that we as parents, when our loved ones are going through this, is showing that unconditional love. If there's any message that I can give to you tonight, and I know there are many messages, love your daughter, your son, your brother, your sister who is going through an illness as this is when you know if you can love unconditionally. And I'm just going to throw up some of the comments up here. Blessings to everyone. Thanks, Wendy. So good to hear this conversation. That's what we always say. We won't want to have too much meds for them. And Wendy's a teacher and she's been dealing with a lot of this. Moms are moms. Yes, we are. Tanya is like, mother's age, motherhood never does. I love that. We need to put that on a shirt. Mother's age, motherhood never does.
Yeah.
Selena, welcome to the show and thank you because you have spoken so much about your mental health and wellness, Selena. So thank you for being on the show and tuning in. And so before we bring up Isha into the conversation, I have a couple more questions for you. Through this journey as a mother, right? How did you have to revisit parenting?
How did I have to revisit
Parent.
parenting? I think as parents, or at least as a parent, I have this strong need to be in charge and control.
Mm,
So I guess even being a director and whatnot,
yeah,
you love to
yeah.
call the shots. So of course, like even when we go to bed, I say pack up. Everybody needs to go to bed. Lights out kind of thing.
Mhm.
So understanding that you cannot always be in control and you don't need to always be in control. I
It's
think
a big lesson.
that shift was very important for everyone's sanity and also my own.
Yeah.
And the idea of caring for the self, for your own self, if you have to be of any use to your daughter or your family, it's very important. We forget that a lot of the times, because you're focusing so much on one child. You have other
Mhm.
family members, you have other children, you have your spouse, you have other, your sister, brother, parents. You need to have a balance, you know
I love that. And the other thing that you brought up to mind that just made me remember something. We have our loved ones and family and friends. And did you ever find that in the journey that you were treated differently by family members who didn't understand or friends who didn't understand? What was that journey like?
I think family members would get very frustrated because I was very protective
Mm-hmm.
of Isha and very forgiving of a lot of her behaviors, if you may. Um, but I think I see a point in that, because sometimes you don't know the behavior, whether it's because of the illness or whether it's just behavior and just a tantrum. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
This becomes very challenging at times. So I've learned to kind of take a step back always and not react. In fact, when you see my film, you'll see there is this sequence. The doctor had told me about this game, the three volley. You throw a ball at someone, they throw it back at you, and then you throw it back. So it's just like in your relationship, your child does something, you go and say stop doing that, and
Mm-hmm.
the child retorts, and then you again retort, and then there's a you get into that kind of a situation.
Yeah.
How do you not play three volley?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've said a very cheesy line in the film. The ball is in my court now.
Yeah.
So I have to learn and train myself not to react at everything. And, you know,
And you said it well, it's picking your battles. And for me, patience
yeah,
and understanding. It's unfortunate as caregivers that we when our loved ones are admitted to hospital, nobody pulls us aside and tells us what to expect. you
yes,
know it's especially if you're getting into an episode where there's psychosis or deep depression and anxiety. Nobody tells us what it is. And, one of the things I will say about the pandemic is that it opened up an avenue for conversation. And people who never experienced anxiety and depression before started to experience it. And I'm sorry that they had to, but in some ways it may sound selfish. I'm glad that they did, because so many times we try to explain it and people say you can just think it away. You can't always think away depression. If it's
Mhm.
a brain disease, we don't tell people think away cancer. We don't tell them think away a heart attack. And,
Right.
when we see people acting differently, we call them words like crazy. And I'm like, change that languaging, because it hinders people from getting the help that they need. And when you see your loved one going through a personality change, they themselves go through moments where they are also scared.
Yes.
And the dynamics, and people just don't know what to say to you. So the fact that we're having this conversation tonight from the caregiver's voice is so important and impactful.
Mm.
And so I want to bring up Isha, but before we do, let us show uh so Shabnam, for those of you now joining us, Shabnam is here. We're telling the voice of mental health through the lens of a mom, the caregiver's voice. And Shabna, in her journey, has done an 8-minute documentary. I would love to show you the documentary. We probably have a showing one day, but she's shopping it right now. So all you're going to get is the teaser. And if anybody's in the film world watching this and you're
Nic-
connected to the film festival, go ahead, Shabna.
Nicole, that 8-minute one, you could just share it in the chat. They can see it in their own time. Don't worry about
Okay.
it.
But I'm giving
But
them the
the
trailer.
40
All they
minute
get is tonight
film
is the
is
trailer.
what we
And
can't
then
see.
we probably have, what we should have? We'll have a showing of that 8-minute one and then bring you back and let's have a private Zoom chat. If anybody's open to that, let's do that. Because I think it's going to be a riveting conversation. So, okay, here goes. All right.
Makes films to cope with her demons.
Cheers. Happy 17th.
You're shooting me with a camera instead of a gun.
I am not going to the doctor.
I'm not ill. The reason I came to this hospital was for you. Because you were acting up. I was worried for you.
Maybe I'm not feeling well enough.
I love you like anything. They tied me up last night. I'm just going to tell you a little story.
Read this.
What does it say?
Get well.
When I tell you it's getting worse, it's getting worse. I want to move in with you.
So cute.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was just a teaser of Unfinished by Shabnam. And I know if everybody was right there, they'll be giving you the round of applause. Put your comments in the chat, Shabnam. But I saw that the first time. I'm glad I saw it without being surprised tonight, because I would be a hot mess and not being able to even speak. So now I'm going to bring up the beautiful Isha to, okay, I'm going to show you the round of applause that's coming in, clapping, coming away. Isha, I am adding you to the screen. Welcome. Oh my God. You're here. You're here. And Sarah saying, wow, riveting. And Isha, the fact that you're here and you're willing to share some of your journey with us, I am so humbled by it. You know, there was a line that I don't know if anybody caught that line, and if I have to play it again, I'll play it again. You said to your mom, "You're so busy. It's like shooting the camera instead of a gun." Do you remember that line?
Yeah, I do remember that line. I don't recall what exactly was going on in my mind at that time, but when I think of it now, I think of it something like maybe she would want to shoot away the illness, but she couldn't do that with a gun, so she did it with a camera.
Mhm.
Uh, sh
Yes.
but so there was the illness, and then there was me, and but she can't just have me without the illness, so we're together. and we're joined forever. So it's like that. That's what it is.
Isha, listen here. Don't start to make me cry before I start talking more to you. Oh my God. She's like, she wanted to shoot away the illness. That's exactly, I can really relate. My God. Okay, so there's going to be some tongue tiedness here with Nicole tonight. I'm just going to say, I'm just going to be real and transparent because you're so good. Isha, would you be willing? Can you share a little bit of your journey or how much of your journey you want to share um, to those of listening tonight?
Well, there have been times where my episodes have been very traumatizing. Uh, my main episode, which occurred when a year after I got married at the age of 23, happened because I was triggered due to domestic violence. So I was victim of the abuse from my ex-husband, and he almost broke my back in two once. And that night, I stayed at a friend's place, and I thought I would leave him then, but
Mm.
I didn't. I ended up staying another 6 months more, and so that was part of my journey. But then coming out of that, I found the love of children because my mom's really good friend, she's in childcare, and she introduced me to that, and I was surrounded by children in a boarding school up in North India, and my dad helped me get that job. I had just gotten out of rehab, and I was trying to find my way. And So I used to teach dance there, and I taught art and games, and I was also the kindergarten teacher. So I just had a blast with the children, and all the abuse that I had taken in my life got healed with the love and the power of children. Just
Mm.
such positive energy they had, and they are not the people who judge you. They didn't judge me. They didn't look at me through the lens of having a mental illness. They didn't look at me through the lens of anything. If at all, one child told me, "Oh, you haven't worn eyeliner or kajal. Are you feeling sad today?" So they worry about your emotions,
Yeah.
and they're highly sensitive to that. And
Mhm.
they give you compliments. You're looking so good, uh, and you're like, "Thank you." And sometimes I wonder, why don't adults give more compliments to each other? We'd be much happier.
Wow. Yes.
So
No, no, no. That is like, Isha, that is so powerful because so many times we go through our day and we don't even smile at another person, but you deal with children. And I love you say it's the non judgment and they don't look at you through the eyes of your illness. How has it been for you when you felt like people are looking at you through the eyes of your illness? What would you want to say to individuals who look at anyone who is diagnosed with a mental health illness?
So for me, it's very simple. Either you're in my life or you're not. If you have
Mm,
a problem with my illness, I don't have space for you in my life because I want to create my life made out of individuals, consisting of individuals that, yeah, that are quality individuals that understand me,
yeah.
don't judge me, because I don't want to hurt myself. So
Hmm.
if somebody cannot offer me something that I want from them, and that not want from them, but at least expect from them. I know we shouldn't have expectations, and I really don't, but like it would be nice if somebody accepted me for who I am and didn't judge me. But for example, my workplace judged me, and I was laid off from a childcare place, but then I found another place which accepted me. And so I sometimes, yeah, it was my fault. I spoke about my condition, which I shouldn't have. And I was trying to be an advocate of mental health, but I realized that in childcare it's very difficult for people to understand that you have this condition, but you can still be normal and function normally if you're having your medicine and interact with children. But many people tell me not to advertise it, but no, I want to be an advocate for it because I don't want anyone who's listening to this, or uh, anyone out there who has a mental health condition, to think to themselves and say, you know what, I should stay in a closet all my life and not come out just because I have this condition. No, they're worth it.
Anybody who comes after you, you call Auntie Nicole. And I'll be right there with you, and we'll be taking them down together, because you're so right. And I love this message to, you know, to people, but to employers, because I have this really strong passion out of people who are employing individuals. You know, this whole privacy thing, where, like, how has the, for me, when I look and I listen to, you know, we have to keep everything private and hidden. Has that, do you feel that that adds to the stigma? Like, you have to hide that you have a mental illness?
Yes, I think that adds to the stigma, but I think everyone should have a choice whether they want to share it or not. But
Hmm.
I don't think there should be a rule saying that you don't talk about it at all, because what is the big taboo about it? That there's more pressure. If you try and contain something, it's like Pandora's box. You want to know what's inside.
Yeah.
You just want to know what's going on in there. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you one of your compliments right now. Why, Isha? Wow, Isha. Thank you for your courage and your advocacy. And that's from Dagmar. Isn't she amazing?
Yes.
Because I know it's so hard for many individuals who are dealing with their mental health and wellness to even speak about it publicly, because of the, you know, people put the stigma, the shame, the judgment on it. And so when you look at your health now, and you look at your family, and you look at dealing with life, what would you want to say to, like, your mom or any caregiver like myself or anybody out there? What could we do better as caregivers and as friends and supporters when you have a loved one who has a mental condition?
I think the first thing is try not to be a doctor.
Ah,
And yeah, yeah, because there has to be a boundary. There has to be a boundary, because you can't say things like, I think this medicine should increase. you know
okay, you're teaching me here. You're teaching me here. How does that make you feel? Like, if your mom said that to you, or we're saying that in the doctor's office, I think the medicine should increase. Because I know I've said that. I've been guilty of that.
um I feel like, honestly, I feel like it's not in their place to say that, because they
Okay.
don't understand medicine. Just like it's not in the doctor's place to give me only emotional support, because
Mhm.
they're just like doing their job with the medicines. So I mean, I do cry sometimes on the doctor's shoulder, but only if they're a good counselor.
Right.
Because some psychiatrists are just only purely just psychiatrists and
Yeah.
not counselors. So now I'm forgetting what you asked me.
Yeah. So what? That's okay. So what advice would you give to a caregiver, or like your mom, or you wish your mom
Yeah,
did
yeah,
this?
yeah. So the emotional support has to be there. And oh yes. So the stigma, as far as I believe it, the stigma starts from the very root, from the families.
Mm,
So we have to try and uh eliminate the stigma which is in the family circles, and then we kind of go outwards, like, because the stigma is born within the roots and then it spreads out like fire. So we have to really contain it, and I think that's what caregivers should work on, is eliminating the stigma within the families, because sometimes the parents are okay with it, and they talk openly with the child, but sometimes siblings say things like, oh, you know what, you should reveal to your employer what like disorder you have, otherwise this is what my one of my very close members of the family told me in India. She told me, if you don't reveal to your employer that you have bipolar disorder, you'll be committing a fraud.
wow.
And I was like, fraud?
That's strong. Because we don't have to admit, like, if we have like I had a heart disease or I've had cancer, we don't have to admit that to employers. So why do we have to admit that we have a mental illness? It's the same thing.
Yeah, so that's what. And then my sister was like, "Oh yeah, you should." Just like if you needed to go to university and if you've ever done any burglary, you have to report it to the university. And I was like,
You hit on a point there, Isha. You know, one of the points that you hit on that I think that is so important. People look at individuals who have a mental illness, who have been diagnosed with a mental illness. I'm going to say because we are not our illnesses. We have been diagnosed with a mental illness as criminals because they have criminalized so much individuals who are unwell. And especially, so I thank you so, so much for that point. That is like a bing bing moment. If one thing that people can hear is that you have to treat every illness, it's the same. It
Yeah.
is totally the same. And Shabnam, I wanted to bring you back into the conversation as you heard Isha talk about, what I would do differently or what would I say to my mom. That one of the things she talked about is, you're not a doctor. I think I get that too. You're
Yeah.
not a doctor. And hearing her say that, what would you do differently now that you're more aware of, you know, that Isha has accepted her illness and is moving through life seem as anybody should could be, what would you say to yourself now?
I think not hide her anymore from the world. Be proud of her, which I am terribly proud of her. Yeah, and she has taught me so much about life, about looking at things differently. And looking at things differently is not necessarily bad. It's just another
Yeah,
way. Maybe sometimes the perspective is more in depth. Sometimes the clarity with which she looks at things is way more than I can ever look at. And the process of working with her on this film has been incredible. I don't think I would have been able to make the film the way it turned out without her partnership. I think that was very critical.
so
Yeah.
so Isha, you said something there, and and you, Shabnam, that is making me think, like, if a parent, so let's talk to parents now, who's dealing with a loved one who's having a crisis. What shouldn't we say? So you said you've been at a doctor, so don't be careful about certain things. And I remember in the film you made certain comments. I'm laughing as I think of them now, and but what would you want your mom to know, or a mom like me or a dad to know? Just don't do this when we're going through, or even now.
uh, I think that there's a lot of pressure put on them judging us
Hmm.
and viewing us as the illness
Mm,
and not looking at us as whom we are, like who we are as a personality, and acknowledging certain parts of our personality and saying that okay, this is who you are and this is whom I love. And the illness is something completely different. So when both of them get merged and it's difficult to differentiate between the two, my mom mentioned that earlier, that happens very often. But they shouldn't be quick to jump to the conclusion and say that this is because of your illness.
that's big.
Because, yeah, yeah, so that's
No, that's big because trying to figure out when it's the illness and when it's not the illness, that's the behavior.
Yeah.
And that can add to a judging. And you have a question here in the chat. Um, and Vivian is saying, we love our children, we love them, we want you to be happy, we want to keep you safe. But how do we stop worrying trying to fix everything? Because when you look at your mom, right? And other parents, we want to fix everything, but we're worrying because we don't know. Again, is this the illness? Is this you? Are you okay? What happens if you go out there when you're unwell and you're vulnerable and people can, and I think that's one of the biggest things when
Yeah.
you're unwell and people take advantage of you. Like, how do we, and this is a question for the two of you, how do we stop worrying?
Yeah, this happened with me actually. I had physical relations with a guy in Germany just before I boarded my flight, and I was not in my senses.
Mm.
So I have very faint recollection of that anyway. But the point is how to stop worrying. See, one thing I've discovered, to all the parents out there, I'm telling you, when you fall sick, the core values of the human being remain intact.
Ooh.
No matter what happens, the core values are intact. So if you establish the core value of a good uh, channel of communication between the caregiver and the patient will always, when they are in going through something or the other, they will reach out to you. So that's the way of not worrying, is if because you're on top of what's happening, but it
Mhm.
has to come from them. But because
I
if
second that. Yeah.
huh
I second that completely.
yeah, it has to.
Channel of communication needs to
Yeah,
be open.
absolutely. Yeah, so once that's there, then you know exactly what's happening, and your mind is put to ease, you know. Yeah.
I love that. And anything you can say to that? You want to add to that, Shabnam, about the not worrying and the
Um,
trying to fix everything?
yeah, but I guess one needs to evolve, right?
Mm.
It's like I think with time and with all our experiences, with all that we've gone through together as a family, as a mother and daughter, or as parents and children, I think one has learned a lot of lessons
Hmm.
in this journey, and we continue to learn. We continue to evolve. There are lapses of judgment, and then you realize you come back, but the periods of agony have shortened. I mean,
Right.
you're not suffering as much, because you kind of accept, and then you say, okay, how can we help and how can we make it better? It's positive. There is, okay, you want to study, okay, what do you want to do?
Hmm.
I'm giving up my job because I want to go back to school. Okay, fine, what's the plan? So rather than saying, hey, you need a job, you need to work, you need to be out there, so it's like you reason. There
Yeah.
is more reasoning, there's more trying to come from a place of empathy and compassion, to your own child. Here I am volunteering with the distress center, and here
Mm.
I'm not able to deal with my own child. So then there is hypocrisy. So I'm still working on it, trying to bridge that gap.
We have to give ourselves grace. I
Yes,
think at the end of the day, no matter who you are, even if you are, no matter what illness you have to give yourself grace. And as a loved one, you have to give yourself grace. You have to give yourself that self compassion because it's so hard. And we are human beings having a human experience, right? And
absolutely.
so, where where are you on your journey now, Isha?
I have come to. I know this sounds very strange when I say it, but I've come to love my disorder.
Wow.
Yeah,
Why?
because I feel like it's empowered me to
Mm.
search for meaning in life, to search for happiness, to search for meaningful relationships, to search for love from children, and to know that it's okay in life to be simple. You don't have to be loud and get attention to try and seem successful. It's okay to hide behind the lens, and it's okay not to take center stage and get the audience to applause. So it's all that is fine, but all I know is that I've come to really like if my illness, if my disorder was a person, like I can visualize myself hugging him or her.
Mm. Wow. Wow. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, like, Isha, listen, listen. I can't. I am just so in awe of how you're describing this. And you know what I know for sure is this. I know for sure as we continue this advocacy role, because Shabnam, I'm letting you know, I don't have a daughter. I'm adopting you as one of my daughters, okay? And as we do this advocacy work together, because I believe we're going to be doing it together, that the young people that you touch are going to be so much more fortified. And you're going to be able to help parents have more empathy, more understanding, and equip them. Because you said the values that you place in your children now is what's going to come out of them, and it's going to be that foundation. And so, one of the things that's said to me that anybody hearing now is, what are the values that you are instilling in your children, your grandchildren? That is so key and so core. Wendy is up here and she is like, yes, you are a champion, like seriously. And I'm not just saying this because you're on my show. And Jackie is right there. That's awesome to hear. Acceptance is love. Your heart and your ability to show us, if your illness was a personality, we're going to have to explore that. I think that needs to be part of your book. And I see, I don't know if your mom's already
Yes,
seen the
Yes,
film.
absolutely.
The film, your personality, like it is so much creativity happening here. I'm
Yes.
beside myself.
we have
Welcome,
to. We
babe.
have to.
We have to do this. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to calm myself down because I'm so
Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath in.
I'm gonna send you a draft of my book that you can read. So
Okay, and we're gonna share an expert of that before we leave tonight.
yes, yes.
We have to. Shabnam, where are you on the journey now?
Myself,
Yeah.
I think one day at a time.
Mm,
For me, it's that. And it works for me, I guess. I have
okay.
my mother, my aged mother now living with us. And it's amazing. It's amazing to know that there is still so much love to give. There's still so much love, that there's so much more work to do, but still it's not daunting anymore.
Mhm.
So it's incredible
And
what love can do.
it's incredible what love can do, and it's incredible when that love comes together as community, as family. You're getting so much support
Amen.
tonight. And
Amen.
Vivian is saying, Isha, thank you for your honesty and helping us have a better understanding of our loved ones' lives. Because I don't know if individuals understand on the line, Isha, what Isha is doing is it's not very common place for parents to be able to share with their loved ones about their illness because of the dynamics. There's so much going on, and so for this is a game changer. I'm just saying, this is a big game changer here tonight. What
Thank
keeps hope alive for you, Isha? What keeps hope alive for you? What is hope for life for you?
Uh, Hope for life.
No, what is keeping hope alive for you? Sorry.
Sorry, can you
What,
repeat that?
what keeps your hope alive?
My hope alive. I have this.
the hope rock.
I have
Love it.
one. I see if I didn't have to get up and shift everything, I have one too. Your hope rock.
Yeah, exactly. What keeps my hope alive is I know that I have hit rock bottom, and I've written of this in my book as well. So I know hit rock bottom, and I know that from here there's nowhere else to go but up.
I'm like, Shabnam, I don't even know how you can even talk after she speaks.
Nothing. I don't stand a chance.
So what is hope for you now, Shabnam, as you listen to it? What keeps your hope alive for the future? The future
Nothing. This itself, what
wellness.
we're doing today, this is hope. It cannot get better. This is fantastic. For Isha to have a platform, for Isha to have her voice heard, for Isha to come from a place of acceptance and strength, you know,
Mm,
like she said, to love that thing which is considered taboo or stigmatized. I think that's fabulous. And I have to say that even the kids that she has in her school, there are special needs children, and Isha connects with them beautifully.
mhm, mhm.
And what makes her so good when she doesn't have that training? That's what is amazing,
I
So,
love it. I love it. So Isha, your advocacy, you mentioned advocacy work earlier. Why is it
Yes.
so important for advocacy to happen?
Uh, See, I feel that people who are diagnosed with any kind of mental health, like any disorder, they feel that they have to hide it,
Mhm.
and if even if they don't hide it, they feel they have to feel guilty about it because it's something that makes them ugly.
Mm.
And my whole agenda is that actually it makes you beautiful and it makes you shine brighter, and it's almost like it makes you see the darkness through which you can see the light. There's so much light there, you know, but you won't be able to even feel the lightness if you don't feel the darkness, you know. And that's there even for the illness, because for my disorder at least, it's an up and down thing. And I know that one minute I'm up and the other minute I'm down, and that's how it's always going to be if I don't have my meds. So that's why.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to give you some of the comments here. I just have to share. Nowhere else to go but up. Well said, Isha. So inspiring.
Thank you, sir.
This is powerful. Isha, I applaud your insight and wisdom. A door may close because of your condition. I see many windows of possibilities wide open for you. The sky is your limit for you to see.
Thank you, Pavanti.
I
Isha,
I want to say something about Pam. We celebrated Isha's 13th birthday at Pam's house. Pam had baked a cake with her own hands, and it was beautiful.
I
Thank you.
love. Thank you, Pam, for being in Isha's life. Isha and Pam, you are such. Isha and Shabnam, sorry, you're such an inspiration. And Shabnam, why is advocacy so important for you as a caregiver? And the fact that you even did this film, why is this so important for you?
It's important that I get that message out to other families who are struggling, and to get that message out that you're not alone. Because I learned through the making of this film and through doing so much of my own work that I'm not alone.
Mhm.
So it's again about building that community and reaching out to each other, you know, being supportive to each other. I think the trouble is we all want to appear so perfect in front of others, like strong, we are strong, we can do it. But vulnerability is a strength, and once you understand that, you know, I think sky's the limit.
The sky is the limit.
Yeah.
So, trick questions for you as we wind down tonight. We're almost there. Shabnam, what does victory look like for you in this journey?
Compassion, kindness, and love. I think I've made it if I can have this as the pillars of my life.
I love that.
Yeah.
Isha, what would victory look like for you in your journey?
Uh, Honesty, love, and positivity.
Mhm. Love and that's that unconditional love. That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
unconditional love. What is next for you, beautiful woman, here on my Victory Speak stage platform tonight? What's next for you, Miss Isha?
Well, I'll be doing a George Brown early childhood leadership degree, and also will be working on my memoir, Finding Order in Disorder. I hope it comes out soon.
It is going to. And what's next for you, Shabnam?
My PhD at the Theatre and Performance Studies at York University, and the research using art as in family therapy. That's the plan so far.
I'm loving this.
Yeah.
And Jackie says, which is so powerful, you give me hope. And I hope you both know that you're inspiring hope tonight, total hope. And Shabnam, is there a motto? No, let me ask the question is because I know your motto, and your mantra is reinvent yourself every day. Why is that such an important mantra?
Because every day is a new day.
Mm,
Every day is a new day. You don't know what to expect. I mean, I grew up in a family where we didn't know what to expect every day because of the way my father was. And so I grew up with those uncertainties. You know what I'm saying? It's so even now, and if it's not any different, sometimes you feel you needs to ruffle some feathers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if no one does, then I do. So you know what I'm saying. So what we call dysfunction is actually pretty interesting and pretty functional for us. It works for us.
I love it.
No, it does. I mean, the fact is, it does, right, Isha? No matter what, right? We have Patchy, not Patchy, Dobby in the mix, which
Mhm.
he adds so much joy and disturbance in our lives. We love it. We love it.
And so, Isha, I have a favor to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Would you share with us your poem? The
Yeah,
piece from your memoir, not the poem, the piece from your memoir, because it's so powerful.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would love to wind down the show with that tonight before I do the final closing.
Sure. Okay, so am I the observer or the bird that has taken flight into the horizon? Am I a follower seated amongst the crowd, or am I a leader who takes a step forward and sets herself free to explore beyond infinity? Whoever I may be, I fit perfectly into this chaotic universe. With its unbalanced beauty, I am forever finding order in disorder.
I am forever finding order in this order. Listen, Shabnam and Isha, I am supercalifragilistically espialidociously happy tonight that you graced and you said yes to being on the show. That that was just perfect. And is there anything else that you want to say before we sign off tonight? I know it's Mental Health Week here in Canada. You have so many parts to your journey, Isha. You know, you're writing your book, you're doing your early childhood education, you're a dancer, and I'm putting her YouTube channel up here. So if you want to, you might be able to see a little bit of her dancing. She's so good. And is there anything you want to say to the folks here tonight before we leave?
Thank you for coming out and just, I think what I really feel like saying is that we are in this together, all of us.
Mm, we are in this together, all of us. And Jackie says, powerful words to live by. And Shabnam, is there anything you would like to say that we may have missed along the way?
I cannot match that.
Well, I mean, right now, I think, Isha, you need your own show. I can't wait to read your book. And Joan is saying, you're so inspiring to anyone, not just mental health individuals and caregivers. You're both so inspiring. Shabnam, I'm looking forward to seeing all of your work and your documentary Unfinished is such a powerful piece. I think it would be good if we curate like a conversation. And for those of you who would like to come and see it, um, you let us know and we will put something together. And to anyone
Yeah,
watching live in the replay,
yeah.
go ahead, Shabnam.
No, we'll be screening it at Stella's place. I hopefully in June. It might happen, and there'll be a panel there.
Oh,
So
that is perfect. Yeah, that's the one. Oh, yes, because I remember it's June. I kind of blanked out because I know I wouldn't be there. But as we say, Stella's Place, one of the places that Shabnam's voice is being heard at Stella's Place, and also on the FAC from other organizations. And when we say FAC, the Family Advisory Committees of different organizations. Well, folks, you've been tuning in to the Victory Speak show, and I want to thank my guests Shabnam and Ishra for being here with me tonight. And I want to remind you of a few things. And here's what it is. What is victory for you? What is your vision for your mental health and wellness? You know, the V, I tell you, is your vision. When you find the vision for your mental health and wellness, be intentional. And then cultivate that vision. Be creative. And the transformation will happen, and it will happen for those around you. Let there be order as you look at the vision, and give yourself some ovation along the way, and give ovation to others, because it's an orchestration. When we orchestrate our vision and we're intentional and we cultivate it, it will come together. And together there will be a restoration of self. And remember to rest in the journey along the way. But I say to you one thing: in order to have the victory in your mental health and wellness, in that vision, you have to yield to the process. You have to be humble. Every day, seek to have an inspired conversation with someone you love or someone you've met along the way. And your conversations can be inspired by your truth, your story. Make sure they're meaningful, and it can start with a smile. Even through the mask, I know some of us are still wearing our masks. Victory is your portion. You are the revelation in shifting your perspective, in minding your mind, to sustain living a victorious lifestyle daily, no matter what comes. You can view this again on the Victory Speaks YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to it, comment, let us know your views. And on Wednesday, we have another show, a special show again coming up. It's Mental Health Week here in Canada. And we are focused on minding our minds and talking about it in our community and our community at large. And be sure to check out the Victory Speaks podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Victory Speaks 7. And make yourself, make yourself a priority today and every day. Don't take anyone for granted. Don't take your life for granted. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Be sure to go to Stella's Place on June 9th. Go check out stellasplace.com and go on and look on their website. At 6:30 p.m., there's going to be the showing of Shabnam's film Unfinished, the documentary. And I'm going to end the show tonight with, for those of you who missed it in the beginning, I just want to show you again that piece. Okay, let's see if it's going to work now. Hold on.
My mother makes films to cope with her
Hold on,
demons.
hold on, folks. There we go. There we go.
Cheers. Happy 17th.
You're shooting me with a camera instead of a gun.
I am not going to the doctor.
I'm not ill. The reason I came to this hospital was for you. Because you were acting up. I was worried for you.
Maybe I'm not feeling well enough.
I love you like anything. They tied me up last night. I'm just going to tell you a little story. Read this. What does it say? Get well.
When I tell you it's getting worse, it's getting worse. I want to move in with you.
And good night, and thank you for tuning in to the Victory Speak show.